All right, so hey, we're pleased to be here with Billy Derrick, Dore Report. Big comments from Clark Lee today.
Oh, man.
What was your thoughts on that?
Sneaky good comments. That's what I want to say. He kind of lulled us there for a little bit, and then I was like, wait, what did he just say?
Yeah, there were a couple of those from Clark today. Number one, naming Mike Wright the starting quarterback. And, a lot of people knew before, he went up there and spoke that it's probably going to be Mike Wright. He's probably the guy. But he went out and said it. And, then everybody's asking Mike Wright about that. And, he's the guy if he's here. That's what we think.
Right.
But to have a head coach say that's a pretty big statement. I mean, and that's something.
What this used to be about. Now it's we got to keep everybody in the dark about everything.
I know. So that was that was the first one.
The old competition. We got the old. Hey, what is that? Before we go to the comment, I want to say, so Wright's named. What does that mean for Seals? Do you think he makes it through the season, or do you think this is something we're not going to see him hit the camp or hit the floor?
I think he makes it through the season because he didn't transfer before the season, which was crazy to me. We had thought after a roller coaster of a season for him last year that he was out of here. He got hurt. A lot of stuff going on with Ken Seals last year. So for him to be on the team still was a shocker.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to be in there. He's going to fight. He's going to battle. And knowing Vanderbilt in that offense, he's going to play.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's going to get some snaps and play. So I don't think this means Ken Seals is the number 3 guy now. I mean, he's still the number 2 guy, and he's going to play. Now, of course, barring an injury, that's another thing that's out there. But he's going to play also. Let's face it. In reality of Vanderbilt's situation, he's going to have to play.
Yeah. Now, having Mike right here, does that speak to just what a leader and a captain he is for the Commodores?
Yeah, I mean, you guys saw it. I don't know if y'all heard him talk, but he's got some confidence. He's got some swagger. He's happy to be back in Atlanta in his hometown. And, a lot of it is talk. Talk is cheap. You gotta see it on the field. And I'm kind of in that mold. But it does say a little bit to fans, especially Vanderbilt fans, that he does have that confidence. And it takes a lot to – I mean, he's a great speaker, but, it takes a little bit more to go out there and actually say these things. So, he's got the confidence. He can run the ball. I mean, he's arguably the fastest player on the team, especially offensively. So, and we saw him break, I think, against Missouri, had a long 80-yard run. And, he had some other long runs, I think, against Tennessee as well. But the throwing is what matters. I mean, he went to the Manning Passing Academy. For whatever that's worth, we've seen guys go there and, improve, but we've also seen guys go there, and it's just a good experience. They kind of want to be able to tout themselves and say they went to that. But, for Mike Wright, he's been through a lot at Vanderbilt, but I think it's his time now, and he's the leader, and that's kind of the way Vanderbilt fans are looking at it now. He's the leader. He's the emotional leader. He's the leader on the field, and I think that's a good thing for Vanderbilt, to kind of start. You've got your guy, and you know who the guy is, as opposed to last year. Who's the guy? We didn't know if it was Seals. We didn't know if it was Wright. Now you've got the guy that's, I don't know if that's a step in the right direction, but, that's kind of a foundation that you start with.
And you look at Equalizer with those legs, keep the chains moving. I think it's a great move for Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a lot of games that you're going to need something.
Yeah.
You're going to need a little X factor, and I think that's what he brings to it. But let's get to it, Mike. The question, I've got to get –
I've got it saved on my phone, too. I made sure I saved it.
We know in time Vanderbilt football will be the best program in the country.
I love the confidence.
I do too. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I want to back it up. I really do. I really do. But that's who Clark is. That's who Clark Lee is. He's been at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And he's heard Brian Kelly say those kinds of things. And he's going to get up there and say things like that. Now, of course, people are going to take it out of proportion, joke about it on Twitter like we all are. That's what SEC Media Days is for. But I'm with you, Shane, in saying that, why not? Why the hell not? I mean, yes, you're Vanderbilt, but, you got to get up there and speak with a loud voice and be confident in yourself. And, he's doing that. At the same time, will they ever win a national title? No.
Right.
That's but they're playing for that, and they're competing for that.
We talk optimistically about Vanderbilt a lot, and one of the things we talk about is the location. There's not a better spot. I'm looking. This is fun. I love Atlanta, but I'm looking for next year's game day or media days
Nashville.
because we're going to be in Nashville.
Yeah,
it is a sleeping giant, and if you can get that fan base fired up, if you can get these boosters buying in, which we're starting to see it with some renovations already that Clark Lee is a part of, and I just like the build-up you know what? How far out before Vanderbilt's a competition again in the SEC?
Well, we gotta wait and see because you talked about the facilities. Those are probably 2, maybe 3 years away.
Right.
I mean, they're going to start construction next year, kind of like what Missouri did a couple of years ago, where they've got a construction site in one of their end zones. Vanderbilt's going to pretty much have it in both end zones, before the year's over. So that'll be happening. You'll be seeing, kind of visualizing what it's going to look like in the end zones. But until that's done, that's big for recruits.
Yeah.
You go to a stadium. Clark Lee is sending these guys, and half the stadium is full with red or blue or the other color. And so Vanderbilt's got to get to a point first to where they can at least take their crowd back, take their stadium back.
Right.
That's the first thing. Number 2, you've got to see those, I think, renovations.
Yeah.
Obviously winning is more important, but you've also got to have those renovations. I mean, we've seen it with Arkansas. We saw it with Missouri, to where that makes a difference.
Yeah.
That really does make a difference, not only for the fans, for the players, for road teams that come in. They want to play in a nice stadium.
Yeah.
And so, that's really important. But in terms of a timeline, it's just tough. It's tough right now. I think realistically, Clark Lee, a good barometer right now is 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years from now, they should be where, they want to be as a program.
Right.
They should be making a bowl game. They should be getting 4 stars. Mm-hmm. They should dominate the mid-state of Tennessee, and that's what they've started to kind of do. I mean, they got a top 40 recruiting class after a season like that. So that to me says that it's there. It's in this program for it to happen. But you've got to see some of that other stuff. You got to see the facilities, and so. But of course, winning is the most important thing.
Yeah, and I've had former Vanderbilt lineman Bruno Reagan on the show.
Oh yeah,
and he's said it's a marvel that they had that recruiting class because the environment is similar to a morgue down there in Vanderbilt. Like, how in the heck are they recruiting these players to campus right now? But they're selling them on the future. They're selling them on the vision. Let me ask you this, because this is something that he and I go back with all the time. We hit on Nashville, how exciting it is. Why do they not utilize that more, or how can they, whether it's like a pregame concert series or just anything to make Vanderbilt, we already know, is unique in the SEC. They need to use that as a strength instead of saying, well, we don't got what Alabama's got. We don't got what Tennessee's got. You do have Nashville, and there's ways to utilize that for the fan experience, for the game day experience, and I'm just not seeing that commitment.
No, and, we were talking about it yesterday, our show in Nashville, and, why not a post-game fireworks show, or it's something
anything
like that, anything. A pregame concert with, any country music singer that lives in Nashville.
Yeah.
I mean, incorporate the city with your team because you're in that city. You guys have been there. It's a 5-10-minute drive from Broadway, and so I think that's what Vandy fans want to see. When Franklin was here, Nashville wasn't what it is now, so it is tougher for Clark Lee because you go to Nashville, you want to go to a concert.
Right.
You could go to a Preds game, Titans game, all kinds of different things. Vanderbilt football is not an attraction right now. Yeah. And, of course, it's hard for Clark Lee, but they've got to get there, whatever it takes. Obviously, number one thing is winning, but the small things you just talked about, Mike, I think will help. I mean, bring those younger fans. There's so many young people in Nashville, too, that want to just have a good time and see something cool, And so I'm with you. I think fireworks show, concert, whatever. Of course, we talk about it all the time on our podcast. My buddy Will Byram always says number one thing is winning. You just got to win. Forget about all that stuff. But for me, you're at Vanderbilt. You've got to think differently. Yes, it's about winning, but you're different than everybody else, so you've got to do things differently.
Right.
Because you can't think like Alabama. You can't think like Tennessee. You've got to think outside the box, and I think that's what Clark Lee's doing.
Yeah.
How big is that season opener looming over the season, Hawaii, after last season's terrible start? They've got to avoid those mistakes in the opener in a tricky spot. I mean, it should be a good fun going out there, but they got to focus on football out there.
Yeah, they really do. And Clark Lee talked about that. He said there's a lot to this trip. It's week 0. It's basically, the Hall of Fame game in the NFL. That's what you're going to have a lot of eyes on. I mean, 9:30 in Hawaii. Yeah. Hawaii's not a very good team. But I think some passionate college football fans are going to be watching that game, and just because it's whatever's on. It's 9:30 kick.
We'd love to go to that game.
Oh yeah, yeah. You got to break the bank for that one. But no, I'm with you, Mike. I just think I asked a lot of the players about it. Are y'all playing with a chip on your shoulder after what happened against ETSU last year? And an in-state FBS team knocks you off. Not just beats you, but they beat the brakes off you. I mean, they come into your house and dominate you. So does that put a chip on your shoulder? Of course, they all said, no, not really. We're going in with the same mindset as we do every year. But I got to believe that they want to make a statement in that first game, no matter who they're playing. If they were playing Georgia Tech, if they were playing Elon, no matter who they're playing, they got to make a statement because you got to show the growth as a program that you've been able to make. And so it's a huge game, and it's going to be a challenge. I mean, for this program, it's going to be that type of a challenge to where they've got to take advantage of whatever Hawaii brings to them.
Oh, final thing real quick. Sorry, losing concentration over here, getting the clip over here. But is this year we see Vanderbilt defense start to look like that Vanderbilt Clark Lee defense that we want to see?
I think so, and we saw some flashes of it last year, down the stretch against South Carolina, Tennessee, and some of the later games of that stretch where Clark Lee, you can see his imprint on this defense. I mean, he had a couple linebackers. Ethan Barr, I think he was a walk-on, not real big, not real strong. He turned him into a pretty good linebacker. And then Anthony Orji, a guy that's here too, is very talented. I mean, he I think is a guy that could be drafted next year. And so developing those guys and seeing that imprint that Clark Lee has put on this defense is pretty impressive. And I think he squeezed just as much as he could out of that team last year. I mean, and so he's got to try to do the same thing again this year. And it'll be interesting. I think the defense, of course, is going to be the strength. But Kane Patterson, a guy out of Clemson, a local kid, his brother Langston is actually at Vanderbilt too. So, it's going to be interesting to see does that take another big step, or is it? We'll get a good sense of the timeline in Clark Lee and that Vanderbilt team.
Can you tell the audience before you go how to find your work and give you a follow on social media?
Sure, appreciate it. The Dore Report, Dore_report on Twitter. We're also on Instagram. Got to work on Instagram and TikTok, Shane. That's pretty tough for us. But we also got YouTube. We're putting every podcast up just like you guys, and we'll have all of our SEC Media Days content up today as well. But I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
You guys
so
are looking
much.
good here at SEC Media Days.
Have a good one.
Appreciate it.